On Tuesday, special counsel Jack Smith's office said that a former maintenance worker at Mar-a-Lago has flipped on Donald Trump.
Oh, no!
The unidentified staffer, named only as Trump employee 4, well, I should say former Trump employee 4, most likely, in the filing, but suspected to be Yusel Taveras, oversaw the club's security camera system. So now he was already interviewed by a grand jury. He had told them before that he hadn't been privy to any attempt to delete security footage. We find out later, of course, that Trump had asked, hey, can we delete this server footage? So now, that said, he originally told a grand jury that I don't know any plans to delete the server. No, what name so? I have no idea what you're talking about. But after dumping his lawyer, Stanley Woodward, for another attorney offered up by the Federal Defender's Office in Washington, Taveras immediately flipped. Gone. In fact, Smith's office said in his filing, immediately after receiving new counsel, Taveras retracted his prior testimony and provided information that implicated Trump and his 2 alleged co-conspirators in efforts to delete security camera footage. So this is all related, of course, to the Mar-a-Lago documents case. So I know it's kind of hard to keep track of all the different cases where Donald Trump is alleged to have done many, many criminal things, the greatest criminal things, the best criminal things. Nobody crimes like me. Nobody knows crime like me. I've only been doing it for my entire career. Okay, anyway. Moving on. Sources familiar with the matter told ABC News that Taveras' decision to switch lawyers and cooperate with Smith's office came after he received a target letter from Smith in June, indicating that he knew Taveras had perjured himself during his grand jury testimony and warning, if possible, criminal charges. Under the terms of their agreement, in exchange for truthful testimony, the obstruction allegations, Smith will not prosecute Taveras for perjury. And that's how it's done. That is how deals are made, and that is how you use lesser known, lesser important people who have done crimes on behalf of a bigger criminal. That's how you get them to flip. Now, Taveras met with prosecutors just a week before the superseding indictment was returned last month, according to ABC News. In that interview, he had denied that he had been coached by anyone to give false testimony. Rather, Taveras reportedly said that he hadn't wanted to get more deeply involved in the case, motivated by the fear of losing his job. And it's very unclear, at least on Tuesday, whether or not he still works at Mar-a-Lago, according to the report. Very likely no. And, if so, not for much longer. In fact, I would kind of expect...
Fired!
You're fired!
And there you go. Now, so here's the thing about getting people to do crime for you. Don't. Just don't. I mean, don't ask people to do crime on your behalf, and better yet, don't do crime. That's generally the best course of action here. Seems like a no-brainer, but again, you are dealing with Donald Trump, who allegedly has done crime pretty much his entire life. So, now the lawyer who had represented Taveras was already representing a lot of people here, at least 7 of them, and so no longer is he representing Taveras. Obviously, he's got a new lawyer, but this presents an interesting, basically this is an interesting case, okay? Now, Smith's office had previously raised concerns of a potential conflict of interest regarding Mr. Woodward as he represents other people in the case, co-defendants, Noota, as well as others who may be called as witnesses in the classified documents trial, which, again, this guy was one of those co-defendants. And by the way, still is just represented by somebody different now. So the result now of this, of Smith, and what he's trying to do here is basically to challenge this and say, hey, look, this is a conflict of interest here. If you have one lawyer representing an entire block of co-defendants in this same case, I mean, that's not good. We need to get them a just different lawyers, different representation, so that there is no conflict of interest here. And that's the key word here. That's the key phrase, conflicts of interest. So now Smith is hoping that, get these individuals to get their own legal representation that is not Trump related, not paid for by Trump or any of the related PACs. And so you might get some of these people who have information, who may have perjured themselves, defending Donald Trump, to flip on him. And again, it's getting the small fish to get the bigger one. Okay. Now, right now, Woodward is being paid by Trump's Save America PAC, which is basically there to essentially defend Donald Trump. So I think that there might be a little bit of pressure to stay loyal to Trump if this guy is representing you, because he's not actually representing these guys. He's representing Trump. That's the big client here. That's the big person that he's trying to ultimately protect, in my opinion. So what Smith's office is doing is pretty smart and could, again, lead to more flipping, as I mentioned. These individuals getting independent counsel that is outside of Trump's control, and also will be actually looking out to get the best deal for them and not looking out for the best interests of, again, Donald Trump. So this could potentially lead to many more instances of people who may have previously given false statements to recant those, which again strengthens the case against Trump, strengthens Smith's case. Now, there's a lot of potential, by the way. Dozens of Mar-a-Lago workers were previously reported to have testified to the grand jury as part of this case. And I'm not saying all of them were asked to lie or lied on Trump's behalf. However, if a few of them ended up actually giving false statements, and then if they get independent counsel recant those false statements, well, that's going to make Donald Trump's life a little bit more difficult in this case. So now, in order to try to do this, Smith's office called Judge Eileen Cannon, called for her to do a Garcia hearing on the matter. So what's a Garcia hearing? Basically, it's held to ensure that a defendant who was one of two or more defendants represented by the same attorney understands the risk of a conflict of interest and knows that they are entitled to the services of an attorney who does not represent anyone else in their case. Now, lawyers for the co-defendants have strongly pushed back on the need for their hearing, saying, oh, no, you know what, conflict of interest, that's okay. We'll just bar Taveras from testifying at all. Funny how they're saying, oh, this is bar this guy who flipped on us. Oh, that's not totally convenient. The prosecutors push back, but there's a little bit of a problem here. So look, this guy flipped, which could create a domino effect. However, Judge Cannon could end up barring Taveras from testifying and also reject Smith's request for a Garcia hearing. So that would ultimately help Donald Trump. But at the same time, if she does that without really good legal reasoning here, well, that's going to put her, that's going to open up her to even more criticism, which she's already receiving, by the way. Legal analyst and former federal prosecutor Joyce Vance noted in an article that if Judge Cannon refuses to hold a hearing and advise Trump's two co-defendants in the Mar-a-Lago case of the conflict, it would rival her earlier decisions for being so wrong legally that there'd be serious consideration on appeal of her fitness to remain on the case. Now, look, we've talked about Judge Cannon before. I don't think that's a question. I think she is unfit for this case. I think that she's there for one reason and one reason alone, to protect Donald Trump, the person who gave her the job. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, she is the judge in this case. She will not recuse herself. She is there to protect Donald Trump. Now, the problem, of course, that she's running into is that it keeps getting harder and harder to defend Trump. And at some point, it will become impossible, even for a crooked judge, to defend Trump.